Have you ever wondered if the bus lines in GTA 5 are an accurate reflection of real life? Do they actually follow specific routes across the map of Los Santos? Are there set schedules for these buses to pass by? How accurate is Rockstar Games' recreation of Los Angeles public transportation system? In this video, we're gonna analyze the routes that the buses take, as well as the main bus terminal in Los Santos. We'll take a deep look at all the stops these buses make around the entire city. Basically, a full guide to the whole public transportation system. Stick around until the end because I'm sure you're gonna learn a lot of things about GTA that you probably didn't know before. Before we start talking about how these buses move around the city, I first need to introduce which vehicles are actually present in the game. The buses that make up Los Santos public transportation system are manufactured by a company called Brute. They're quite famous for producing almost all utility vehicles that appear in GTA 5 and other games in the HD universe. The bus network in GTA 5 has a rather peculiar name within the game's universe, or in English, it's called the Bullet. That's not exactly the name of the buses themselves, but rather the name of the entire transit network in the game. There are 4 main bus colors in Los Santos' public transportation system: orange, blue, red, and turquoise. There are also 2 additional models with different color schemes. Those are the ones that specifically run the route to Los Santos International Airport. By the way, if you want to see a full analysis of Los Santos International Airport, there's a video right here in the card. The bus system in GTA 5 actually extends beyond Los Santos, reaching all the way up to the Paleto Bay region, as we can see in the mission where there's a heist that takes place there. We actually see Lester arriving there by bus from Los Santos. What's interesting about that scene is that he gets off through the back door of the bus, something you'll rarely see happen in the game. We'll talk more about that later. If you don't know yet, Los Santos is inspired by the famous metropolis of Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, the bus system works like this. The orange buses are local routes, stopping at nearly every block for passengers to get on and off. The red buses are faster routes that only stop at major intersections, and the blue buses are express lines that use the highways and make very few stops along their route. It's worth remembering that the version we see in GTA 5 was made back in 2013. Nowadays, the city of Los Angeles has already changed the colors of its buses, and they no longer operate the same way. Now that we know a bit more about how the real-life system works, we can start looking for similarities and see whether Rockstar really stayed true to this aspect, following those same routes and guidelines just like in real life. I spent a lot of time inside GTA 5 buses trying to figure out whether the routes they follow actually make sense, if they're programmed that way, or if the buses just act like random non-player characters wandering aimlessly around the city. But before we get stuck riding around Los Santos all day, I want to start at the source, the place where every detail of this complex system should begin, the Los Santos Bus Terminal. That's where everything should start. The Los Santos Bus Terminal, or as it's called in the game, the Dashdown Bus Center, is supposed to be the city's main bus station. It should be a busy, lively place that reflects the urban energy of Los Santos. However, some design choices and technical limitations make it feel more like a static backdrop than a real functioning terminal. It lacks the life and dynamics you'd expect from a place like this. In this video, we're going to explore how it works or doesn't work by analyzing its structure, strange flaws, and surprising details that make this location feel so within GTA 5. Even though the terminal appears to have a functioning layout, with parking areas, bus bays for passengers to board, pedestrians walking around, people waiting for their buses, and even homeless NPC rummaging through the trash. It's all just surface level. As I mentioned earlier, even though the terminal looks realistic at first glance, there are several aspects that make you question the logic behind its existence. For example, at the bus terminal, you never, and I mean never, actually see buses arriving or leaving. They simply appear or disappear without any apparent logic at the bays where they're supposed to pick up passengers. And speaking of those bays where buses park to board passengers, they seem to have been designed incorrectly. The passenger doors are facing outward, away from the terminal, making it unsafe or even impossible for passengers to board properly. Instead, the driver's side windows face the waiting area, which makes no sense at all. Even though during free roam, you won't find any buses driving in or out of this terminal, in the mission chop, buses suddenly appear all over the place, making the area seem much busier than it actually is. That's basically Rockstar trying to make the world feel more detailed and alive during missions, since players don't usually come to this spot on their own. So during missions, everything looks vibrant and well put together. The only problem is, Rockstar probably thought no one would notice, but I did. During that mission, the NPC models driving the buses aren't actually bus drivers. Most likely that NPC model was created after the mission was already designed, so the developer just placed a generic worker model instead of the proper bus driver model that does exist in the game. Now let's talk a bit about the details this bus terminal has and like the numbering system on its platforms, but the markings are quite faded and worn out. The good thing is that at night at least they light up, and the whole area seems to have decent lighting for what it's meant to be. Some parts of the terminal look completely unused, likely because of poor planning by the developer who first designed it. The building could have been set back a bit to make better use of the space, giving buses enough room to maneuver. As it stands, if a driver tries to turn a bus into those first two bays, he'd probably end up hitting someone on the sidewalk or even the fire hydrant that's right there. And honestly, there's no way to justify that as a design choice. It's just plain weird. It doesn't make sense for gameplay, and it's far from realistic. Another major issue with this terminal is that there's simply no functional exit for the buses. There are barricades blocking the passage between the passenger parking area and the bus circulation area, so if a player wanted to do a bit of bus driver roleplay, they'd have to make this bizarre tight U-turn just to get out the proper way. As I mentioned earlier, there are barricades blocking the parking lot. That probably explains why we never see any buses entering or leaving the terminal. It would be a nightmare for the NPCs to handle that kind of maneuvering, most likely because of this design flaw. Rockstar just decided to leave the buses parked there doing absolutely nothing, and speaking of our bus driver, I brought him here to ask you for a like, and while he's at it, to remind you to subscribe to the channel. If you've made it this far, it's because you're enjoying the video, so give us a hand and hit that subscribe button. Now, moving to the other side of the terminal, this is where we can actually spot some really cool details Rockstar added. Even though this isn't exactly a highlight location on the game's main map, the terminal has security cameras and even a payphone, which adds a certain level of realism and atmosphere. You can also find parking payment machines. Yes, they even show the hourly rate and price table if the player wants to park there. Of course, it's not actually functional, and you'll rarely see any NPCs interacting with it, but still, credit where credit's due, that's a nice bit of detail from Rockstar. You can also find bike racks, which makes sense for a bus terminal, and even properly marked parking spots for people with disabilities. A really nice touch, especially since accessibility is something that even real-life places often overlook. We can also see NPCs entering the parking lot from the street, pulling into spaces and standing around on the sidewalk, though they don't seem to be waiting for passengers or buses. They're just kind of there, doing absolutely nothing. Now, there are three final details I can't forget to mention here. First, there's a mechanic's garage inside the bus terminal, but it barely fits a bus. Seriously, it's practically impossible to back one in there. I feel bad for the mechanic who'd have to pull that off, and even if you somehow manage to fit the bus inside, good luck trying to get out. Second, there's actually a cat that lives in the terminal. It has a small chance of appearing at specific times during the day, following roughly this little path here. The funny part is that when it reaches the ends of its route, it just lies down and takes a nap. And finally, there's something wrong with this speed bump in the parking lot. It's literally cutting right through one of the parking spaces. Now that we know the full background of Los Santos' bus system, we can start analyzing how these buses actually behave in the game. Remember at the beginning of the video when I said that each bus color represented a different type of route, some stopping every block, others only at main intersections? Well, that's how it works in real life Los Angeles. Unfortunately, in the game, there's nothing like that. And trust me, I spent hours following buses of different colors in different parts of the map at different times of day. Sadly, Rockstar didn't assign specific routes to each bus. Every time you spot a bus driving through Los Santos traffic, it's just another random vehicle. It doesn't have a defined route or any real intelligence to behave like a public transport vehicle. In fact, the AI that controls these buses can be really dumb sometimes. On any given turn, you'll see them knocking down poles, hitting signs, crashing into other cars, doing every kind of reckless move you can imagine. The real menace of the road. The good news is not everything is broken. There are a few situations where buses do stop at bus stops to pick up and drop off passengers, but this only happens in very specific areas of the map and at certain times, what players usually call scripted buses. Basically, these are buses that spawn near bus stops, drop off a few passengers, pick up others, and then merge into regular traffic like any other vehicle. But if you follow a random bus driving around the city, you'll see that it doesn't follow any actual route. It'll just keep wandering aimlessly, never picking up or dropping off passengers. During these passenger drop-off and pickup events, we can see how detailed the buses really are. They have everything you'd expect. The doors make the right sound. The structure feels feels authentic. Everything looks great, but there's a small issue you can spot when the driver opens the doors. There's no animation at all. However, when he closes them, you can see a quick animation. He kind of presses an invisible button. It's small, but at least it's something. Another detail worth mentioning is that there's another type of bus, the one designed for long distance travel, running along the highways. These can also be found in specific spots around the map. Just like the city buses, they're scripted to stop at certain locations along the highways. You can even find some that pull into gas stations where the driver gets out and smokes a cigarette. It's really well done, but it's not dynamic. Basically, the buses just spawn, perform a set action, and then blend into regular traffic. Some of them simply stay parked forever and never move. One random spawn I thought was really cool happens right in front of this church. You'll see several buses parked there as if a bunch of people had arrived on a group trip for a service. It's a simple detail, but a really nice touch. Another fun moment to mention is that mission where Franklin kind of does a bus driver roleplay. He picks up passengers pretending to be the driver while actually chasing a target. It's funny because the passengers even comment about the real bus driver, saying they liked him better. And during that mission, you actually have to stop at bus stops. But in free roam, outside of missions, that never happens. The buses just keep driving around aimlessly. So after all this, you might be wondering, are the buses really realistic? Well, overall, in a game where the main focus clearly isn't public transportation, I'd say they're pretty satisfying. As for the AI part, like having buses constantly picking up and dropping off passengers, I can give Rockstar a pass for that, especially considering the generation of the game. GTA 5's world is incredibly detailed, and for something created back in 2013, it's still beyond impressive. Not every studio would bother reaching this level of detail. Even with flaws, it still surpasses many modern games today. So yeah, when it comes to the buses driving around the city, it doesn't really bother me that they don't have specific routes or dynamic passengers, apart from the scripted ones. What does disappoint me a bit though is the bus terminal itself. It feels half-baked. Besides having design issues, it doesn't represent what a real large-scale terminal should look like. I mean, do you really think all of Los Angeles buses could fit in or get out of this tiny parking lot? It's not realistic, not even by size, but like I said, it's a 2013 game, and the goal here was just to point out some inconsistencies, which I think we've done pretty well. So yes, I'd say the bus system is satisfactory. Now, if you enjoyed this kind of video and want me to make one analyzing the subway system in GTA 5, let me know in the comments. That way, I'll know you guys want a full breakdown of the game's subway network. And of course, if you like videos that dig into these small details of GTA, we've already done two others you'll probably love. One analyzing GTA 5's airport, where I actually worked with a pilot for consultation. Alright guys, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, see you next time, and I'm out.